Guys, it's Christian Senior back from CNH Small again for another informative review video. This one deals with ALG triggers. What I'm basically doing a review here for is the ALG where's it at here? ALG AKT Enhanced. A buddy of mine wanted me to basically do like sort of like a close-up review of what it actually looks like when we actually compare it to another trigger, because he was on the fence about like swapping out his trigger because he originally had like a factory Tapco in his one gun. Unfortunately he got a Wasser from about 5 years ago. If you know about Wasser, they're made by Century International Arms. And he wanted me to like basically do some kind of a close-up review between the two on here for that. And I got a brand new OEM AKT enhanced trigger here from my one kit. I've actually purchased about 3 of these for my AKs, plus I had a couple more as well too for my Vepr 12s as well too, because these triggers are basically, we want to call perfection for your AK and also for your Vepr 12 and stuff like that. So I just want to give you an actual close-up view of what they actually look like side by side. And in my case, as I said before, I did have to modify the one trigger to put it in my DDI, and I also have to modify the second one to put it in my my SAM 7 rifle as well too. So I just want to show you side by side what the factory OEM Tapco in most of the DDI guns is, and what they look like side by side. And just want to give you a reference point of what I actually had to do to mine close up, so you can see what I had to do to get the fit in my one DDI gun, so you can actually see what it looks like. Plus there was also one more mod that I want to touch base on. It was the actual mod you do for your disconnector in the back, because as I said before in the past video, I heard reports and I actually see people who had the disconnectors were cracking off in the back. So I just want to give you a close-up of what they look like after you want to mod them back down. So let me show you what they look like here. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm gonna get it focused up. Here we go. There we go. Okay, your factory ALG trigger right here. You see in my upper left corner right here. This is the improved one, they call it. The E represents, it's the enhanced model specifically. What they do is they put it's almost like, personally it's like a Teflon coating or some kind of a coating they put on here, but it's really slick, like some kind of like a slick type of coating almost. As I said before, I feel like it's Teflon or some kind of a Teflon similar chemical or whatever they put on. I don't know what it is specifically. It's probably their proprietary blend of whatever they do to it, and it works quite well in these guns right here for that. And they also do shorten up this area right here with the sear rosette on here as opposed to the other one, so you definitely have a noticeable decrease in the actual creep and travel to when the actual hammer disconnects from your actual sear right here as well too, guys, for that. So they definitely did improve that right there for that. And the hammer, as you see right here, I got this hammer. I basically grind off part on my little buffing wheel over here. I'm in the process of basically polishing this one here. I got this up a few days back. I'm going to basically slick this thing up so it's nice and buttery smooth in my one gun. And I basically wanted to show you what I was mentioning in the previous video about the Tapco and the ALG modified ones. If you see side by side here, this is the ALG enhanced disconnector right here, and this is a typical Tapco G2 for your AK as well too. And what I recommend doing is basically cutting off this foot piece right here. Basically cut it right by there, this little back piece right here, and give the same profile as this Tapco one right here. And the reason why being is because, as I said before, I seen on the AK forums a few people who actually had this rear foot area break off, and the people I actually talked to on there told me that they supposedly had Arsenal Stamper C rifles, and this rear foot area right here was actually hitting on I think it's a rivet in the back on her hand, and basically it was hitting on it quite violently. And I think they even had a representative from ALG make some comments about it specifically, and they were saying if the hammer spring for your hammer is not up to spec, or if possibly something else is out of spec on her, they recommend following down that rivet. But personally, I recommend just chopping this thing off. Right, just chop left and back. Make it the same profile shape as your Tapco G2 disconnector right here, and basically it'll be perfectly fine, no problem whatsoever, because the Tapco G2s work perfectly fine, and basically all AKs out there for that. So they're sort of like the we want to call pioneers for your aftermarket triggers that they're for that. So I just basically keep it similar to that and basically do the same kind of mods here, because in my previous videos I mentioned before, if you have a Vepr 12, basically they already cut this back piece off anyway, so it's kind of out of the way anyway. So just do the same thing with that right there. If you have a bench grinder or some kind of Dremel grinder, just chop that back piece off, and you won't have any worries about having a possibly crack or split or break off right there for that as well too. Okay, and as with most ALG triggers right here, you get your packet right here, and you also get your owner's manual guide as well too. And they do recommend, if you want more tension on the actual trigger right there, you can install your auxiliary spring. I basically call it an auxiliary trigger spring, but I never installed any of my guns, and never had any failures to failure to fire or failure to fire properly. So it works perfectly fine over here with my variations of the AKs out here, no problem whatsoever for that. So I personally have never had any need to install the auxiliary spring right there for that. You do basically will have to install these roll pins right here. These they give you 2 roll pins, and what you got to do is you take your trigger, and you want to put it in a small vise and make sure it's nice and secure, and you want it to tap these things down into the hole right here for it. You want to tap them down into that hole right there, so they're slightly flush, or I'd say maybe about 1 or 2 millimeters above that, just enough so you can actually put your gun and fit it. So whenever you put your gun, it's basically, you don't want to have hardly any movement whatsoever whenever that's butt up against your safety unit, because if you have movement, the possibility that it can make your gun unsafe to shoot out there for that. And if you have too much travel in here, and basically whenever your safety is connecting right here, and you have too much travel, your gun can be unsafe to shoot, and your sear area will disengage off of your shelf right here for your hammer. So you do not want that. You want to have this thing fitted properly to prevent any negligible discharge on your part as the owner of the machine. So that's basically what you want to do right there specifically for that. And as I said before, I just want to give you comparisons between these 2 hammers. I got a hammer right here. This is the OEM hammer for AKT. And here's one of my modded hammers I got out of my Vepr 12. I actually took this out of here before I got the AKT original one. And you can see right here the actual profile that I got right here for this one. You see how low that is right there? And basically you can mod your hammer profile on your AKT trigger yourself. However, you basically want to keep it nice and flat along that top right there to keep the actual contact area where it actually hits on the back of the firing pin for that. So you can do it yourself. However, I do only recommend you do it yourself unless you know what you're doing specifically. Personally, since I got a bunch of these Tapcos just sitting around, I basically dicked around it and I did it myself, but I sent my AKTE for my 2 Vepr 12s out to my buddy called Vepr 12 on YouTube, on our Vepr 12 all day. That's his handle right there for that, and he will mod your hammer right here if you have a Vepr 12, and you get this trigger specifically for your Vepr 12 as well too. So that's something to consider in the future if you ever want to upgrade your triggers for your Vepr 12 as well too. So that's basically my review for your ALG AKT trigger right there for that. If anybody has any questions, comments, whatnot, feel free to leave me a message here, and I'll try to answer any questions you guys have specifically about this, and give you any kind of pointers or installation tips, whatever you want to do for that, guys. So I'll see you guys. Have a nice day.